Hey guys, and welcome back to the ASX Investor channel. Today, we're bringing to you another ASX CEO interview, and we're diving back into the world of the rare earths. We know that the rare earths are a basket of goods that are really going to be helping to transform the future of the world that we live in, from the electrification discussion to decarbonisation and the narrative surrounding diversification of supply chains as well. They're really playing on the key of a range of different thematics. And today we'll be discussing a really interesting company who are developing a rare earths project and also considering the downstream and vertical integration opportunities as well. It's Ionic Rare Earths, ASX IXR. We're really excited to be joined by the CEO, Tim Harrison. Tim, welcome to the channel, mate.
Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. I guess before we discuss all the recent news, there's been plenty of news flow and announcements. Did you want to give us that overview of who is Ionic Rare Earths and how are you trying to fit within the supply chain?
Okay, so Ionic Rare Earths, we're developing a large Ionic Adsorption Clay deposit in Uganda. Extremely rare type of mineralization that produces, 95 to, nearly 98% of the world's current supply of heavy rare earths. And, they're hugely strategic assets, prevalent in southern China and Myanmar. And these are really the assets that are producing all of the dysprosium and terbium that's currently used in the global supply chain today. Outside of southern China, Myanmar, they're extremely difficult to find. And so there's ourselves, there's a couple of other projects in southern America. So we're in a very unique space, marching towards a mining license application. On the back of this potentially very large deposit at Makuutu, we are looking at going downstream, building our own supply chain and being able to market our unique basket of rare earths into the US and Europe, and really, providing that point of differentiation in new supply chains that are going to emerge over the next, 5 to 10 years.
And to paint that backdrop, maybe for the viewers who might not be as familiar with the rare earth sector, of course, not all rare earths are made equal. All of the different baskets and the compositions are separate. Can you give us an insight into how the current lay of the land is and why Ionic Rare Earths basket is so unique as well?
Okay, so for example, most of the projects that investors currently have access to today are light rare earth dominant mineral concentrate projects. So they're projects developed from mining and concentrating primary rare earth minerals like bastnäsite and monazite. So they're light rare earth dominant. They have probably about 20% NdPr, and maybe if they're lucky, maybe 1% of DyTb, if that. So they really are very light rare earth dominant. The differentiation between those products and ours is that we have a basket that's about 73% magnet plus heavy rare earths. So when we look at the NdPr, ours is about 29% of our basket. But more importantly, the DyTb, these are the magnet rare earths, the heavy magnet rare earths, makes up about 4 to 5% of our basket. It's a real differentiator. And these are going to be the heavy rare earths, the magnet rare earths that are increasingly more in demand as the world moves towards increasing the amount of EVs on the road, offshore wind turbines, because they're simply not substitutable, right? So, you can't phase them out and achieve the same efficiencies in the magnets. So that's a real point of differentiation. And the other thing is that when we look at the heavy rare earth composition of the product that we produce, about 44%. And when you compare that to Linus's product, which is about 4%, you can see it's a substantial amount of heavy rare earths. And this is really where we're seeing huge amount of interest emerging now in the US and Europe, getting access to these rare earths that are incredibly difficult to source outside of southern China.
And of course, when we're talking about the rare earths, I think a lot of people intuitively understand electric vehicles. We can see behind you in your picture there, wind turbines, defense use cases. Can you give us that insight about potential use cases, but also what your outlook for the rare earth sector is as well as we move into this next decade?
Okay, so rare earths really are the enabler of technology, right? So if you consider today the global rare earth supply chain, the value of the rare earths as produced as a mineral, rare earth oxides, is probably somewhere between $5 and $10 billion annually. But that $5 or $10 billion actually seeds somewhere between $5 and $10 trillion worth of value-added components. So there is a significant uplift in the conversion of the rare earth oxides to the value-added components. So it does enable a lot of industry. So you've got obviously the EV thematic that we're seeing, basically increasing on a weekly basis. We're seeing projections continually increasing with massive demand forecast by the end of this decade. You've seen huge potential adoption of offshore wind as the world looks for renewable sources. And in the application of offshore wind, you simply can't build offshore wind turbines without those heavy rare earths. So, the magnet rare earth composition, you've got your NdPr, but also the DyTb. So that's an application that's going to increase substantially, not just beyond the end of this decade, but out to 2050, 2060 as the world tries to deliver, net carbon or net zero carbon emission targets. You've also got some very key applications in communications and military and defence, where, again, heavy rare earths are enabling a lot of these products. And substitution is not an option. They simply, if you don't have the rare earths, you won't have the products. And so, we see huge potential demand increasing over the next few years, but beyond, the end of the decade, it's really hard to put a figure on how much this is going to grow. So, with a great asset like Makuutu, which is potentially, anywhere up to a 50-year plus life of mine asset, we're really positioning ourselves to be an early mover and a key mover in this new supply chain on magnet and heavy rare earths.
And that then quite naturally draws us onto the Makuutu discussion. Obviously, you've got the Makuutu project there, potentially long life. As mentioned, you're undergoing the drilling campaign at the moment with a potential resource upgrade to come. Solid strip ratios, looks like it's going to be fairly low cost. Can you give us the insight? What have you got there? What's the resource and what are you looking forward to moving forward?
Okay, so March last year, we did the latest, we did a resource update. We went back into the field. We mobilised 4 drill rigs. We drilled 432 holes in the second half of last year. Assay results are all back in. Amazingly, all 432 holes came back with rare earth bearing clays above the resource cutoff grade. So, the resource geologist is now going back, recalculating the updated resource. And we're very confident on a significant increase on the measured and indicated resource space that's going to support the feasibility study at Makuutu. And so, we're looking at a significant increase in confidence on that resource, which again, we think is going to support a very robust feasibility study, potential to look at a more aggressive ramp up to supply the magnet and heavy rare earths that the world, they're looking for that secure alternative supply chain. And we think we're in a great position to play a key role in that.
And so then pathway forward from here, obviously that resource upgrade coming in the not too distant future, then moving forward towards feasibility study, mining license, production in 2024, I believe. Can you give us the key growth drivers along the way?
That's right. So the plan for us is, completing this mineral resource estimate update over the next few weeks. On the back of that, we've got obviously a number of key studies and developments that are happening in Uganda around our approvals to progress with the mining license application. So, we submitted our environmental and social impact assessment in Uganda back in December. We're expecting that we're going to get feedback on that late in the second quarter. We'll also have a number of key community programs that we've been working through there on landowner agreements and resettlement action plan. With those 2 documents and the feasibility study, which we're aiming on having completed probably in the late third quarter this year, we're aiming on submitting the mining license application in October of this year. And given the current the Mining Act within Uganda and the nominated 60-day deliberation period on that mining license application, all going well. Hopefully we can get that mining license application squared away in late 2022, but probably early 2023. Working through, construction in 2023 and planning on being in operations in the first half of 2024. So, we've moved very swiftly in delineating a very large resource with the potential to get a lot larger because we still have a lot of exploration ground out to the east and northwest. So we're shaping up to be, a significant player of a significant producer of magnet and heavy rare earths in 2024, and then on the back of that, we're also exploring strategies to develop our own refinery. So, given a long life asset, producing a basket of rare earths, it's simply going to be very, very difficult for, a number of downstream customers to source in the future. We see a lot of potential to go downstream, build our own refinery, and then be able to position that product to be part of these new and emerging supply chains that are going to form over the next 5 to 10 years.
That naturally leads us onto the SerenTech acquisition. Just recently closed. You raised some capital surrounding it, as you mentioned, gives you the capabilities, separating, refining, also the opportunity to consider recycling as well. Can you just talk about what that potentially unlocks and what the rationale was behind the acquisition?
Yeah, so again, we have an extremely unique basket. We have 44% heavy rare earths. On the back of that, it was really important for the company to look at getting access to and adding to the capability that we've developed internally on heavy rare earth separation. So we're looking at leveraging the technology that's been developed by Seren into our own refinery and being able to develop that rare earth separation to separate our individual heavy rare earths into the products that we intend to produce initially. But over time, building out that heavy rare earth production capability to potentially supply and enable, potential Western governments to build heavy rare earth stockpiles and be a key player in sourcing and supplying products into the future. I think with the development of our own refinery, it will provide us with the opportunity to potentially aggregate and bring in other medium and heavy rare earth products that maybe other producers simply don't have the economy of scale to justify developing that themselves. So it enables us to have a really key position in those new heavy rare earth separation capabilities going forward. And I suppose the other big attraction with Seren was the fact that they've taken their technology and they've done a lot of work in their ability to apply that on magnet separation, magnet recycling, and the chemical extraction of the rare earth elements from within that spent or those waste magnets and the swarf material that's produced when magnets are made. We're able to, or Seren's able to selectively extract, hydrometallurgically extract the individual rare earth elements that can then be separated and refined to high purity oxides, which can then be redeployed in brand new magnets. So it is a step change on current technologies. We see it as being, potentially puts us in a position to be an early mover in higher end magnet recycling and being able to produce new supplies of magnet rare earths from inventories of spent material that exist globally, that at the moment, basically is being recycled via supply chains back into China.
And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as well. When you're having these discussions, we know that this ESG component is becoming more and more important, and the circular economy. How's it going when you're talking to prospective partners and stakeholders about what you're trying to implement with your vertically integrated supply chains?
So with regard to the circular economy and the ability to integrate our full supply chain, I think, certainly there is an interest there from potential downstream users of our products and potential partners on the ability to partner in life cycle ownership of rare earths. So just beyond producing the rare earths that we will produce from the feed source from Makuutu, the ability to be a long-term player in life cycle ownership of spent, returned, recycled materials back into new magnets And as we produce more magnets, as the world produces more magnets, there will naturally be more magnets for recycling. So it does provide this sort of compounding, accretive production capability, which I think will put us in great stead to provide growth into the future.
So many different moving parts coming together, and it's really fascinating. Obviously, the trends and the tailwinds are moving in that right direction. I'd love just to hear any final reflections that you had for longer term shareholders of ASX IXR or prospective holders who might now just be learning about the story of Ionic Rare Earths.
Yeah, look, I think over the course of the next 6 months, we've got a number of catalysts that are hugely exciting. It's going to be great to see how this project unfolds over the next 6 months as we march towards this mining license application. We are in a very unique space. When we look at other peer projects in the heavy rare earth space, it's a very, very short list. So we're certainly attracting a lot of interest from institutional and thematic investors who are looking at getting access to magnet rare earths, looking at getting access to dysprosium and terbium, which are two elements that you can't effectively substitute out of these high intensity magnets. So we're in a great space to be in a key supply function for these new magnets going to be required for both EVs and offshore wind. So I think all the tailwinds that we're experiencing at the moment, demand is likely to increase substantially between now and the end of the decade. So we're producing the right products. We've got great thematics, and simply there's not many other true Ionic Adsorption Clays that are anywhere near development ready like ourselves. So we think we're in the right space. We've done the work, and we're ready to take advantage of that demand that's coming now.
That is the Ionic Rare Earths story. It's ASX IXR. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button. Feel free to share it out. We make a daily video each and every day, so make sure you subscribe, turn your bell notifications on. Tim Harrison, it was a real pleasure catching up, mate. Looking forward to catching up again sometime soon.